So this is a Honda 21 self-propel walk-behind mower, and the customer brought it in saying that it's high revving and stuff. So before I do anything, I check oil, and let's see where we're at on here. And it looks like it's midway, so that's good. A little bit dark, but nothing too crazy. And then in the gas tank, there's some debris in there, but nothing I feel like needing to worry about at this moment in time. And then since he's talking about high revving, I'm gonna take a quick look at this, and right offhand, I see something that's not right. I see, looks like someone put a zip tie on here on this governor arm to keep it from moving properly. So that's definitely an issue. And then it looks like someone replaced this carburetor. It looks brand new. It looks like it's probably an Amazon carb. And then outside of that, everything else looks normal right offhand. So this is your governor arm right here. It goes, the output shaft's right here, and then this is the governor arm, which then connects to the throttle arm that goes all the way over here to the carburetor and connected to the throttle plate, well, the throttle control arm on the carburetor. And when I'm looking at that, it does move. And if you look right down in here, you can see what I'm talking about. So it is connected. So we'll go ahead and try to fire it up and see what it does at this point in time. I have the fuel on, the spring choke all the way, and it is engaging. The choke is basically this arm right here, which then moves this control arm up here. So you can see it's pushing when I go from here up. That's the choke, and it's the front choke plate right up here on the front of the carb, and that looks like it's moving. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in choke, and let's see if we can just start this thing up. Turn it off, choke. Choke. Okay, so it's not wanting to start right away. So my next go-to that I personally do is shoot a little starter fluid in there, see if we get anything. That's the quickest and easy way of going about it versus pulling spark plugs and all that kind of stuff. It's not necessary, because if it fires up for a second and dies, we already know we got spark, we got compression, and we got proper timing. But so that's why I usually shoot a little starter fluid in there. So let me grab a little bit. Shoot a little in there. I'm gonna try it without choke. Okay, so it's wanting to rev. Okay, so we have confirmed it does high rev. So the next thing to do is we're gonna check to see if this is even adjusted properly. Since they pulled the carburetor, they may have loosened up this nut here and may have changed the position of the governor arm. So we're gonna cut this off, and then we're gonna make some adjustments. So let me cut this off real quick. This is part of the case, and I have some other trinkets in here, so ignore this stuff. But this is from a Briggs & Stratton engine, and this is the governor on these engines, which is gonna be very similar to what you find in these Hondas. And how it works is you have an arm that comes through with a little tab that will kind of sit on top of this. And when the engine speeds up, these weights kick out like so. And then when the weights kick out, this bar pushes up on this this arm that's sticking out, and that is what is adjusting your governor. So in other words, your throttle, I should say. So this is considered your governor when the thing's running. The whole purpose of this is to force it into an idle position, and then you're overriding that with the spring tension over here. So you're overriding that tension with the spring. And so these springs are important. You can't just use any kind of spring, and I don't know if that's original or whatnot. So we're going to cut this zip tie off because that clearly does not belong. And then over here, I'm going to loosen up this nut, which is for our governor arm. The shaft, which I have this connected onto, there's a little flat spot, and I like to use some channel locks. And then how this works is the governor arm has to be pushed towards full throttle, and then the governor arm needs to also be going in that same direction. And so I have to kind of hold them both, and then I got to snug up this 10mm nut on the end. And then if I did that right, it should be properly adjusted. So sometimes you might have to do them a couple times, or there is something wrong on the inside. So now that we did that, we're gonna go ahead and try to start this up. I put it on choke, move those out of the way. Shouldn't be any blades spinning. It looks like this carb is not working properly. So let's see if we can fire this thing. Okay, so one thing is, so that clearly didn't work. Let's see here. Unfortunately, I can't see the inside of that. It should be going in the same direction. Huh?
Maybe it needs to just go the other way.
That's what I'm gonna do. And so what he just mentioned was it probably has to go the other way. And it's possible that this one does have to go the other way. And what I did real quick is right when I heard it high rev, went in there, pushed the throttle. Oh wait, which way is this? Oh, I did it all backwards. So wide opens are all this way. And so everything has to go this direction. I did it at idle, so that's completely backwards. And how you can tell is you have a screw right here. That screw right down, let's see if I can get something to kind of point at it. That screw right there, that is your idle screw. And so when I push this forward, there's a back piece that's resting against that when it's in idle. And so if I push this towards it, that should be an idle. So that's one way you can tell.
Do you think the idle's too high? Maybe it's just that.
No, because I can see that the screw's all the way out, or out quite a ways. And I already know I adjusted it the wrong direction. Yeah, so what I did is this inner shaft here, I turned to the right clockwise, and then this governor arm, this big metal piece, I pushed it to full throttle, and then holding everything that direction, I tightened up this nut after I already loosened it. So it may be backwards, but now we know we did it this way. And so all I was getting at in terms of backwards, that shaft may have to go the other direction. So I shot a little starter fluid in there. We're gonna go ahead and fire it up real quick. There we go. So I'm noticing the choke's not working at 100%. So the choke's not working at 100%, which is part of the reason why I think it's having a hard time starting. So let's see. Because when I go to engage it while it's running, it's not, so that arm should be almost facing straight out. That's this arm right here, this piece right here. I'm gonna hold it in that position, and then I'm gonna move the throttle all the way up, and it is closing all the way. And one way you can also move it is right here. So this throttle is pushing up on this lever right here to engage the choke. It looks like it's just slightly bent, but it should be working. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. So that was actually exactly why the engine was high revving, is because what happened is he replaced that carburetor. He probably pulled all of this stuff off, and then he put everything back on, not knowing that he had to adjust the governor, or when he put it back together, he ruined the adjustment on it. So, and that's why it was started high revving after that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on. I'm gonna see if I can fire it up now without having to use some started fluid. And then I'm gonna check the drive system, engage the blades, just make sure everything sounds like they're working right now. So choke, okay, and then drive. And then blade. There we go. Okay, so that's how you adjust the governor on those. It's always important. There's really no reason to have to pull that off. Whenever I do a carb cleaning or replace a carburetor, I try not to mess with that governor arm at all, because sometimes they can be a real pain to adjust. Sometimes they're backwards from what they say, or at least some of the general information and stuff. Some of them are a little bit different than others, but in general, it's full throttle, and you move the governor arm, the inner shaft, towards full throttle too. You hold it and then tighten up that bolt to retain it. But anyway, you got to clean this thing up and bring it, or give it back to the customer.